Hello and welcome back to Planetos Podcast for episode 39. In today's episode, we discuss the She-Bears, the women of House Mormont. I'm one of your hosts, Travis. You can find me on Twitter at Sir_Travis.
I'm another one of your hosts, Brett. You can find me on Twitter at HomelyPillow.
And I'm another one of your hosts, Micah, and you can find me on Twitter at Micah_of Clark.
So, guys, we've been talking a while about doing an episode all about the She-Bears, and we are excited to finally get around to it. These women are just as strong, just as loyal, just as honorable, and just as awesome as their northern counterparts, as all of the other characters in A Song of Ice and Fire. And I think we have a really good episode today for you. So like always, we'll give a little bit of background on this noble house because it's very important to understand the Mormonts and where they're from, because that really shapes these women. It shapes how tough, how fierce, how noble, how courageous they are. Now, House Mormont is an old house. It's known to be proud and honorable. They are a principal vassal sworn to House Stark. Their sigil is a black bear over a green wood, and their saying is, "Here we stand." I think that's a pretty common motto that everyone knows in the fandom, and it's a really great one. They rule from Bear Island, which is a small isle in the Bay of Ice just northwest of Winterfell. It's said in the histories of the North that Roderick Stark, king in the North, granted the Mormonts Bear Island after he won it from the Ironborn Driftwood Kings in a wrestling match. Many historians, though, believe it was through words, not a wrestling match, probably a contract between the old kings of winter and the driftwood kings of the Iron Islands. So perhaps there was some kind of exchange for ending a war or a conflict, something between the North and the Iron Islands that granted Bear Island back to the dominion of the North. Now, Bear Island is harsh and it's cold. The lands are very poor, which makes House Mormont poor in turn. It's prone to raidings by the Ironborn and the Wildlings. So every man and woman learns from an early age how to defend themselves and their home from raiders and attackers. Their castle, the Mormont's castle, is not made of stone at all. It's a great hall made of huge timber logs surrounded by an earthen palisade, which is basically a large mound. Now, this is really interesting because this shows you the value that women have in their house and in their society. On the gate entering House Mormont's castle is the carving of a woman in a bear cloak. In one arm, she holds a child suckling at her breast, and in the other arm, she holds a battle axe. So right there, that illustrates to the reader and to the characters in A Song of Ice and Fire the importance of women and the importance of mothers in House Mormont and women as vital part of the defense of Bear Island. Now, the Mormonts, ruling from an island, have a small fleet of longships. We see this history when Torrhen Stark sends Mormont longships to aid King Aegon I Targaryen in his campaign against the Iron Islands. And we see it in the main series when Mormont longships aid King Stannis Baratheon in his assault on Deepwood Motte, something we'll talk a little more about when we discuss the She-Bears individually. We also know that the Mormonts are one of the few noble houses in Westeros that possess a Valyrian steel longsword. Longclaw, famously the sword that Lord Jeor Mormont, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, gives to Jon Snow. Now, Longclaw is about 5 centuries old, and it was passed first by Jeor Mormont to his son Jorah Mormont. Of course, as we know, Jorah, after selling slaves, flees Westeros, and he leaves behind the sword, which is sent to the wall by Gior's sister, Maege Mormont, who we'll talk more about in just a little bit. Now, just two more historical points that we think are important. One, the Cold Lord Alaric Stark, who hosted Queen Alysanne at Winterfell, was married to a woman of House Mormont. And two, we know that members of House Mormont were present at the infamous tourney at Harrenhal, though we don't know who exactly was present. Perhaps Maege was, perhaps some other member of House Mormont was. So that might be an interesting fact down the road when information about Jon Snow or about Rhaegar and Lyanna comes back into the narrative. So that's the background on House Mormont, on where they're from, on kind of the world they live in, the things they have to deal with on Bear Island. So now we want to move to our main discussion, and we want to talk about the She-Bears themselves. Now, there are 6 named women of House Mormont in the main series. First is Maege Mormont. Now, she is known as the She-Bear, kind of a honorary title. She is the head of House Mormont. She takes on this role after Ser Jorah flees Westeros, and she basically becomes the lord, the lady of Bear Island. But she's known as the She-Bear, and she has 5 daughters, and their names are in order of their age: Daisy Mormont, who is her eldest daughter and heir. There is Alysanne Mormont, who is Maege's second daughter. Now, Alysanne has a son and daughter as well. There is Lyra Mormont, who is Maege's third daughter. There is Jarell Mormont, also known as Jory, Maege's fourth daughter. And then finally, Lyanna Mormont, her 5th and youngest daughter.
First, we're going to kick things off with Maege Mormont. Maege inherited her titles from her nephew, Ser Jorah Mormont, after he fled Westeros. She is Lord Commander Jorah Mormont's sister, and is short, stout, gray-haired, and a fierce warrior who is described by her brother as willful, stubborn, and short-tempered. Like most other northern lords, she is loyal to House Stark and follows the old gods. She has 5 daughters and no sons. No one knows who the father of her children is. There are rumors that Maege beds with bears, and even Alysanne Mormont jokingly says the Mormonts are skin changers and go into the woods to find mates. It could be that the father is from a lower noble family, and keeping with tradition, Maege keeps the Mormont name since she is from a higher family. In A Game of Thrones, Maege and Daisy lead Bear Island soldiers south when Robb calls the banners. When Robb splits his army, Maege marches with Robb. Her forces call the signal at the Whispering Wood, springing the trap. When Robb is proclaimed King of the North, Maege hails Robb the King of Winter. In A Clash of Kings, Maege goes into the Westerlands with Robb and captures thousands of cattle, which she herds back towards river runs, as the text says. In A Storm of Swords, Maege sets out from River Run for the twins, for Edmure Tully's famous wedding. However, at Hagsmire, Robb sends her and Galbart Glover as envoys to Howland Reed at Greywater Watch in order to prepare for Robb's march north to retake Moat Cailin from the Ironborn and return to Winterfell. She and Galbart go to Seaguard and take Lord Jason Mallister's ships to the neck. They're carrying false orders in case they are captured, and that is the last thing we know about her whereabouts.
Daisy is much different than Maege. She is described as 6 feet tall, with tall features, lanky but elegant and beautiful. Comfortable in either a dress or a leather armor. At an age when other girls would receive a doll, she gets a Morning Star. In A Game of Thrones, she is a riding companion with Robb, even serving in his personal guard at the Battle of Whispering Wood. In A Storm of Swords, on the march toward the twins, she tells Catelyn of Mormont Keep and the story about Ser Jorah's second wife, Lanice Hightower. Daisy serves as a personal guard for Robb at the Red Wedding, dancing with the King in the North. She is refused dance by Edwin Frey, one of the first of many signs of tension inside the twins. When the betrayal begins, Dacey manages to hold off Sir Benefray Frey by smashing a flagon of wine in his face. Yep. But she is killed at the Red Wedding by Sir Ryman Frey, who drives an axe into her belly.
Now, Alysanne Mormont, also known as Allie, is much like her mother in appearance and personality. She is short, chunky, but muscular. She has big thighs, big breasts, and big hands, which are very calloused. She has crooked teeth, but an ingratiating smile. Her nose is very loud and very powerful, as Asha Greyjoy experiences firsthand. Alysanne is gruff, but she is quiet. In the King's Prize chapter, Asha describes Alysanne's dress as ringmail under furs, boiled leather under the ringmail, and sheepskin turned inside out under the leather, even while she's sleeping. Like, Alysanne Mormont knows how to dress, and she knows how to dress for winter. That's a lot of layers, right? Mm-hmm. Alysanne is in her mid-20s. She has a 9-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. She, like Maege, is unwed. In A Feast for Crows, we learn she is the new heir of House Mormont after the death of her sister Dacey at the Red Wedding. In A Dance with Dragons, we learn that Alysanne and men-at-arms from House Mormont helped in the taking of Deepwood Motte. They hid in fishing sloops, burned the Ironborn longships, and took prisoners during the fighting. She joins Stannis Baratheon's host as it marches from Deepwood Motte to liberate Winterfell. Like the Northern Hill clans, she has a desire to see Winterfell freed from the Boltons and Arya Stark rescued. It's said that despite their alliance, she frustrates Stannis. Which woman doesn't frustrate Stannis? So she is assigned to guard Asha Greyjoy. And here's how Asha describes Stannis and Alysanne's relationship. This Southern king seemed to be one of those men to whom women are another race, as strange and unfathomable as giants and grumpkins and the children of the forest. The she-bear made him grind his teeth as well. So at the Crofters' village, she fishes with Asha in the ice lake, and she protects Asha from Sir Clayton Suggs. Clayton Suggs wants to sacrifice the Kraken to R'hllor. In the Theon sample chapter from The Winds of Winter, Stannis orders Sir Justin Massey to take Arya Stark, who we all know as Jane Poole, back to the Wall, back to Castle Black to her brother Jon Snow. And he sends Alysanne Mormont to accompany her. Now, we learned some interesting things from a discussion that Asha and Alysanne have, and I just want to read this. Asha says, "You were wed?" Alysanne responds, "No, my children were fathered by a bear. Mormont women are skin changers. We turn into bears and find mates in the woods. Everyone knows." Asha replies, "Mormont women are all fighters too." Alysanne, "What we are is what you made us. On Bear Island, every child learns to fear krakens rising from the sea." So right there in that little exchange, we learn the value of women in Mormont society. We learn the value of them not only as mothers, but as protectors of Bear Island. And we also get some tidbits about the family dynamics in House Mormont. And maybe a little bit of some historical significance of whether or not they're skin changers, which we might talk about toward the end. Now, there are 3 other Mormont girls, the youngest 3 daughters of Lady Maege Mormont. Lyra Mormont, we learn about her in A Dance with Dragons. That's really all we know about her is that she's there. We do understand that she is with Maege in the Neck, so she accompanied her mother from Hagsmire into the Neck. There is Jarell Mormont. She is also called Jory. And we also learn that she also accompanied Lady Maege. So both Lyra and Jory are with Lady Maege somewhere in the Neck right now. Maybe. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Then finally, Lyanna Mormont, who very famously became a really interesting character in the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. But she has a very infamous scene in the books as well, one that people remember fondly and remember very well. Now, Lyanna Mormont is named after Lyanna Stark, Ned's sister. She is a girl of 10 years old. She is the youngest of Maege's daughters. She is currently ruling Bear Island. When Stannis sends letters to the Northern Lords demanding they bend the knee to him, it is Lyanna who famously replies. She is the only one that replies, but she famously replies, "Bear Island knows no king but the king in the north, whose name is Stark." And that right there should tell you a lot about House Mormont's dedication, not only to Winterfell and the Starks, but to the north. And we're going to talk about that here, because as we enter TWOW, the She-Bears are literally standing up for the north. They're standing for House Stark. They're standing for gaining back the power of the Starks in Winterfell, really living up to their "Here we stand" motto. We think that Maege, we know that Maege went into the Neck, and she went into the Neck with Jory and Lyra. We don't know if they're still there. We're going to talk about that. Alysanne is in the company of escorting Jane Poole back to the Wall, although we don't know yet if they've had time to depart. Remember, the Battle of Ice is coming. She is still present in the Winds of Winter sample, Winds of Winter Theon 1 sample chapter. So if the Battle of Ice happens, we don't know if Alysanne has left yet or not. And then finally, young Lyanna, as we said, is still on Bear Island. So let's speculate a little bit about what happens to these 5 incredible women going forward. So the first thing I want to talk about is, let's talk about where Maege Mormont is. Let's Howland Reed's moving castle. She is carrying false orders because Robb worries that if they're captured, he doesn't want the Ironborn to know what the plan is. That's kind of moot right now, right? Because the Ironborn are, other than a couple places, the Ironborn are rooted out by Stannis and the Boltons. But if she's in the Neck with Howland Reed, is it possible that Howland perhaps divulges some interesting information to her in the context of Maege was in the tent with Robb Stark, with Catelyn Stark, with all of these northern nobles when Robb signed his will naming Jon Snow his heir? So there are some folks who believe that Maege Mormont will come back into the equation with Howland Reed, or she'll come back of her own volition. And then there's other people who think she or one of her daughters may have already returned north. They may have taken one of those Mallister longships and sailed up to Bear Island already. And so that's part of that grand northern conspiracy that the Northern Lords really already know that Jon is Robb's named heir, and they're beginning to test Jon and try to figure out. So where do you all think Maege is and her daughters are right now?
I would think she would be in one of those two places. I don't really have an opinion, I guess, either way. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just where I stand. What about you, Micah? Yeah,
it's certainly interesting. I could see Maege sending like Lyra or Jory up to Bear Island to maybe update Alysanne on what's going on.
You mean Lyanna?
Yeah, but I believe Alysanne was up there at that time too, right? During the time of that letter, I think Alysanne was at Bear Island.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it's possible
to think where she would have been.
I mean, I think it's possible Maege is probably still in the neck. I mean,
yeah, I think Maege is still in there, just so as she's not caught, because she can't trust the Boltons, and she probably doesn't think she can trust Stannis, which is likely why Alysanne's there.
Yeah, you're right. So Alysanne was still on Bear Island. She was technically ruling because Daisy was with her mother Maege, and she joins Stannis's march when they come and burn those Ironborn longships. So yeah, you're right. It's quite possible that she did that because she knew, okay, we need help from Stannis Baratheon. We also need to use Stannis Baratheon to get rid of the Boltons to advance Jon Snow's cause. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because it's kind of an interesting timing, and there's some speculation in the fandom that were the Mormonts already there, like getting ready to attack Deepwood Motte, which is possible because Galbert Glover was with Maege. So, you know, Jory or Lyra could have returned with orders not only on behalf of their mother, but on behalf of Galbert Glover too, saying you all need to go and try to take Deepwood Motte. And then they realize, oh, here comes Stannis Baratheon. We just need to wait for him and take part in this battle.
Yeah. It all fits into it all kind of has to fit in the timeline a certain way because of Asha had those the Glover children hostage.
Right.
You know,
she sends them away at some point.
You know, yeah, I think it is possible Maege might have actually went back to Bear Island, but left Jory and Lyra in the neck because they, you know, it's just safekeeping. Because that would make sense if she knows if she knows about Jon and the will to return to Bear Island to, you know, get the word out, maybe rally the troop, like what's left of their people, or their troops, anyways. And
it's hard to get word off of an island when you're kind of trapped there. So she could definitely be there and successfully remain quieted down.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the letter from Lyanna that comes either at the end of A Storm of Swords or very early in A Dance with Dragons.
It's very early in Dance.
Yeah. So, you know, again, that fits into the timeline because it's not until the end of The Wayward Bride, which is, you know, somewhere in the first fourth of A Dance with Dragons, that the Mormonts help take Deepwood Motte from the Ironborn. One of the interesting theories about Northern Lords knowing that Robb's will names Jon, and not simply the Northern Lords that were present, right? Maege and a Galbert Glover and all these different people were present at Hagsmire when Robb signed the will and then sent it wherever he did. Brett and I had a episode on the Mallisters. We think it's probably in Seaguard. However, if Maege returned or sent word or sent her daughters back to Bear Island with orders, one of the key allies of Bear Island, because they're in proximity to them, but also because they're affected by Ironborn and Wildling raiders, are the Northern Hill clans, the Northern Mountain clans. And we talked about Alice Karstark just a few episodes ago, who shows up at the wall for her wedding, but Torgon Flint, the Flint, and Brandon Norrie, the Norrie. They show up at the wall in John 10 and 11. And so the theory kind of goes that they are there to test Jon Snow, and they are playing politics like you cannot believe at the wall in those chapters. They are asking questions. They are meeting with other lords there. They are questioning Jon. They are demanding to understand why he's doing what he's doing with the wildlings. So that's part of the basis of the theory that they are there specifically to test what kind of king Jon Snow would make for the North. Mm-hmm. And more than likely, if they are there with that specific goal, then they have probably found out from Maege Mormont. They have probably been told, hey, this is what's happening. You need to get ready. And they've also probably heard, well, Stannis Baratheon is letting wildlings through the wall, and he's doing so because the Lord Commander is siding with him. And this Lord Commander is also giving guidance to the Southern King who came to us and asked for help. What's this guy's goal? He's a Lord Commander of the Wall. What the fuck is happening here? And so I think that all kind of feeds into that. I really like thinking this. I mean, we've talked about it numerous times. The North is just so ripe for politics in the Winds of Winter. I cannot wait for it.
Oh man,
it's gonna be great. Yeah, they're definitely the Mountain Clans are definitely gonna have some cool opinion or some interesting opinions on Jon, and they'll definitely relay some. Well, he did this and he did that. He married a Fen and a Karstark together.
Well, and I don't necessarily buy into the full scale of the grand northern conspiracy.
Yeah.
But there were people in that tent when Robb had his will made. They all know, and it kind of branched out. Jon Snow, despite being a bastard, is still a noble, so people are going to flock to him regardless, and he's a Stark noble. So I don't think it's as grand as what that theory makes out, but it does. Yeah. A lot of the points it makes are those are great points.
They are.
Of course, it would line up that way, and so.
Yeah, I don't think the grand conspiracy is as big. I'm in the camp of it's more likely a lot of different scheming that's going to jumble up together.
Yeah, exactly.
In a big pile of nonsense.
The self-interests align, and then.
Oh yeah, I mean when the Boltons are out of the way and all of these lords are assembled in Winterfell, you're going to find out just exactly how much scheming and plotting was going on when Wyman Manderley says, well, I think we should do this. And the Glovers and the Mormonts say, well, no, we think we should do this. Mm-hmm. And Marbury Dustin says,
comes in.
Hey, I'm on your all side now. And the Karstarks. It's
going to be a great, great scene.
And Jon Snow has Alice Karstark with, well, I'm taking control of Carhall. I mean, it's just going to be so amazing. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you all right there on the Grand Northern Conspiracy that it's a lot of minor conspiracies that, if all put into one room, it would be, oh wow, this is a big thing. But it's definitely not. It's not a collective conscience. It's not interconnected. I mean, you're talking about a medieval world. It would be very hard to coordinate something like this. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting, and I do think that there's a possibility that Maege and her daughters, or Maege or her daughters. I mean, I think somehow the Mormonts got back one or two of them, or they sent specific word. It's likely they probably didn't send word though. They probably didn't write a letter, because if they went into the neck carrying false orders, then that shows that Robb, he wants to trust that personal touch. He wants to trust in, I need the person to arrive with the correct information. So it's quite possible that Maege was carrying more false orders as she came back to Bear Island, or her daughters were carrying false orders, in order to get back and say, okay, this is what's really going to happen. Okay, yeah. I think we've covered that pretty good. I really like that. I'm very interested to see how Maege and her daughters come back into the story. Yeah. So let's talk about two other things related to the Mormonts, and then we'll end tonight by talking about what happens to the Mormont women in the Winds of Winter and beyond. So first of all, the comment about Mormonts are skin changers. I think that's a little bit tongue in cheek on Alysanne's part, that they skin change into bears and mate with bears and all of that. But the skin changing part, do you think it's possible at some point the Mormonts were skin changers?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure, why not?
I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but they said something about like sort of like, like the ancient Starks probably, took, married into the family, like married their daughters and stuff, and kind of like collected all of like the skin changer.
I think it was Davos Fingers.
It might have been them, yeah. I've been listening to a lot of Davos.
I think
Fingers,
it was I think it was a recent episode of theirs. I don't know if it was like their last The World of Ice and Fire episode, or if it was their first in the What If series. I think it kind of might have been the What If series.
So it wasn't not a cast or Girls Gone Canon.
I don't think so, because they haven't really covered anything in the North recently.
Not really.
I think it was either Davos Fingers or Radio Westeros, because they did cover the North, but I don't think they covered the North in the context of. I don't really remember a lot of focus on the Mormonts. I'm pretty sure it was Davos Fingers. Anyway, okay. Micah, I mean, you said, yeah, probably.
I'm in line with Brett. They probably had some skin changers way back in the day, back when everyone was a skin changer.
Yeah, I mean, they're an old house. They're an ancient house. They haven't technically been in charge of Bear Island for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But sigils are very important in the North. They represent more than just the face value of this is the animal we've adopted. So quite possibly the Mormonts at one time were skin changers, and they skin changed into bears, just like the Starks skin changed into wolves primarily, and that's kind of how they got their sigil, how they came to be aligned with the bears of the North. Okay. So kind of fun to speculate here is, why is Maege Mormont not wed? Why does she not have a husband? I mean, we don't technically know that she doesn't have a husband. We do know that she doesn't have a husband. We don't know that she doesn't, have some lesser noble that she mated with to have her children. But you also have the fact that Daisy looks completely different than Alysanne, and that's not uncommon in families.
Yeah,
but it's stark. It is,
well, it's almost like the difference between like John and Rob. I mean,
sort of, yeah. I mean, like different hair color, different build, all of these things. And it's even more striking if you would see Daisy and Alysanne right beside each other. I mean, Daisy is tall, slender, beautiful. Alysanne is short, stocky, like her mother. Probably, beautiful in her own way, but just don't look similar. So did they have different fathers? Did Daisy take after her father where Alysanne took after Maege? There are some interesting theories out there that the Mormont women, either Maege or Alysanne, mated with Tormund Giantsbane. Go ahead.
Before you jump into that theory, my favorite part about this theory is that Maege had a bunch of bastards, but either people were like just didn't bring it up because they were kind of scared of her about accusing her of that,
absolutely.
That's my favorite part. That theory suggests is like no one thought to question it,
Yes.
Or
you could see someone like getting drunk and saying, who's the father of your children? And her saying, a fucking bear, and like rattling her battle axe.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, that's good enough for me.
they're Mormonts.
Slams her axe on the table.
Right.
A bear.
A bear.
Yeah.
So we bring this up, and this isn't tinfoil here. I mean, it is tinfoil to an extent, but there's some really interesting information, and this theory dates back several years. But just if you just Google Mormont Tormund Giantsbane, you're going to get a lot of theories, and there are. I just want to highlight a couple. Over on Westeros.org, back in 2013, user Prince of Bravos posted Tormund husband to bears. On the A Song of Ice and Fire subreddit from 4 years ago, user Hyriad posted revisiting a theory regarding Maege Mormont. And then 5 years ago, user KURYER on the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit, A Dance with Dragons husband to bears. So the Mormonts claim that their Maege specifically and Alysanne claim that the father was a bear. They do that kind of tongue in cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Tormund, when talking to Jon, telling, and Tormund tells a lot of tall tales. Let's be fair. Be fair. But he tells this really interesting and funny story about, I think he was like lost in a blizzard, lost in a snowstorm, and he took refuge in a cave, and it ended up being like a bear's cave, and he had to like snuggle this bear, and he ended up like feeding from her, and then he ended up having intercourse with her, and all these things, and everyone's like, okay, this is Tormund just being completely, just making up a story. But Tormund could also be scared to death of Maege Mormont or Alysanne Mormont as well, or whomever. And maybe the root of that story is, again, Bear Island is in that Bay of Ice, and it is very near wildling territory. So, imagine a scenario where, and one of these users on one of the theories that I cited said, imagine that Maege Mormont and Tormund Giantsbane got lost together, not together, but they got lost maybe even separately, and they both ended up in the same cave taking refuge from a snowstorm, and they just ended up spending the night together, keeping warm with each other, and that's how their relationship started. So I think it's an interesting theory, and I'd kind of like to see it come true, especially when you think that Alysanne is heading to the wall right now.
Yeah,
she's escorting Jane to the wall, and let's see. I think Jon. It's the final chapter. Is Jon 13 or 14 in A Dance with Dragons? 13.
Yeah.
And Tormund shows up at the end of Jon 10 or Jon 11. And if you think of the timeline, right? If you think of the timeline of A Dance with Dragons and The Winds of Winter, the pink letter has already arrived. It arrives in the final Jon chapter or the second to last.
Final one.
Yeah. And so he's reading it, saying that Stannis has been defeated. Well, again, remember, Alysanne hasn't left in and I'm doing the listeners can't see it, but I'm doing the Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like crazy map, everything's connected. Alysanne hasn't left Stannis's camp yet. So the timeline could work to where she shows up shortly at the beginning of The Winds of Winter at the wall. Does she see her husband, Tormund Giantsbane? Does she see her father, Tormund Giantsbane?
Does Alysanne look like Maege? Like,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be interesting. Yeah, like if Tormund makes like a comment about it or something, if there's some sort of peace or something up there eventually.
It's a fun theory.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Like a weird look he gives her or something, or he's scared of her or something.
People freak out. People freak out if there's a bit where everyone's coalesced into Winterfell, and then there's like this little line that mentions that Tormund and Maege are talking.
Well,
and then that's all you get.
Well, it makes me wonder too if Dan and Dave came up with the like they that came out of solely their minds of Tormund kind of flirting with Brienne. I wonder if there's something more to that. You know, I mean, that's something they totally could have just did, but wonder if there's an idea that was pitched to them.
Well, I think what you're saying is that
it goes to Alicent. Like,
right,
it was
Brienne
Brienne
being a warrior. Yeah, Brienne being a warrior woman sort of ties back to the warrior women of House Mormont. Mm-hmm. And so did they, know that Tormund and Maege were in a relationship, and so they were like, oh, well, Brienne's going to be there, and so we can tie them together. Was that just, or was it just something that they created on their own, just because, oh, well, Brienne's there, and it would be funny because these two actors, just the reaction of Gwendolyn Christie looking at the guy who played Tormund Giantsbane and rolling her eyes. Which could be. It's
probably the latter, but I mean, it would be interesting. It's just interesting that Tormund says this, says the thing about the bear, and then the show kind of gives you a version of that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I don't disagree with you at all.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think it's quite possible.
Yeah.
I was just looking to see if we kind of understand how old Tormund is.
I think Tormund's pretty old, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was older. But
yeah, I mean he's.
But I don't know because
his beard is white as snow. I mean, yeah, he's older, so he would obviously be, if he was with one of the Mormont women, he would be with Maege. I mean, I'm not gonna, maybe Alicent wanted a sugar daddy or something, but I'm not, who knows?
Oh God,
but I'm sure if he's with someone, it's Maege. I just wanted to look real quick about.
Maege would be the one to own it. And be like, yeah, I was with the wildling. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. So, Tormund has several. Let's see. Tormund has several sons and daughters, and so Toreg the Tall. He's taller than his father. Dacey's very tall. Torwend.
That's kind of a cool name.
A lot of people are tall, though. I'm tall.
Oh, I know, but would you bed with a Mormont?
See, this
your mom a Mormont?
This
maybe.
Is this why Jorah Mormont went to the Wall so he could kill the wildlings? Because his sisters keep going.
Yeah. That's why he went on the Great Ranging. He's like, I need to find him.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Torwend has died. I'm just looking at.
He's got I think 4 named children.
Yeah, Dren, D-R-Y.
And then you got
Dren,
Munda.
Chunky boy with short legs, thick arms, and a wide red face. He's a miniature version of his father. Okay.
And he's got a daughter, Munda.
Yeah, Munda. Munda. It doesn't really describe.
No.
Munda. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's validity to this theory. The stories and stuff is what glues it together. There's obviously not specific evidence in the text that it is, but I really like it. I think it's just one of these cool details that George put in there, and he may never answer it, but
That's
the
what
fact that Alysanne is going to the wall, the fact that Tormund is going to be there, and the fact that the wildlings are going to be behind Jon Snow when he becomes king in the north. And, all of these people are going to eventually be together. I think we could see this be reality in the end.
I think that's so weird too, because you would think the Mormonts do have a lot of similarities, like between them and the wildlings, and it's so weird that like Jor can't put aside, like can't see that, or like he goes off on that big ranging. I mean, this is not an episode about it, but about that. But you get my point. Just it's very strange.
I mean, it's just the as we've talked about, it's just people just can't escape just grievances that have just festered for thousands of years in this case.
Yeah.
So let's end tonight by talking about what we think is going to happen to the Mormont women. So we know that Daisy unfortunately died at the Red Wedding, so we still have Maege
So
and
sad about that.
Alysanne and Lyra and Jory and Lyanna. So what do you all think? I mean, that's the show gave us. They were background characters, but we had Daisy and Maege. But I think like after season 1 or season 2, they're just not seen again, and they were never really even named.
Yeah.
Lyanna,
we had them? Did we have them?
Yeah, so Maege is Maege.
Were they in the Great John Umber scene?
Yes, Maege.
Okay.
Maege may have been in the Great John Umber scene that happens in like Winterfell's feasting hall early in season 1, but she was definitely at the King in the North scene at the end of season 1. And then I think that there was like a Daisy Mormont character kind of in the background of either season 2 or 3. Yeah. And I think you briefly see her at the Red Wedding in the Reigns of Castamere episode. But after that, other than Lyanna, who, was only supposed to have a bit part in the show, but they liked her so well that they kept her around for a long time.
Yeah.
So did they keep her around because they liked the actress? Or did they have some material that, we weren't going to use this, but we could use this for her? That kind of, will Lyanna come into prominence in the story? But I think that there are other Mormont women that are more prominent that, are going to be integral going forward. What do you all think about where they go in The Winds of Winter and in A Dream of Spring?
I think Lyanna Mormont. I think she played probably a bigger role in the TV show than she will in the book. I think the big part about her was that letter. I don't know. I mean, we might see her again. I mean, but
I think we could see her again, but she's a very minor role, kind of like.
I feel like
most.
I feel like Maege would be the one dying to a giant or something, an undead giant or something.
I think Maege is going to go
or
by the end of the series. I could see Alysanne living. I could see Alysanne living and being the ruler of Bear Island at the end.
Yeah.
Because she's gained a little bit of prominence in dance, but George could kill her too because he's killed other Mormonts that we like.
I mean, yeah, I could see a lot of them getting killed, and then you have Lyanna being the last heir. I mean, I could definitely see that, but
another seed in that theme. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think Maege and Lyra and Jory are probably goners. I really hope that Alysanne survives the series, and I would like it. I would like it from in the context of Asha being Queen of the Iron Islands or ruler of the Iron Islands. Then you could kind of see as we talked about with the Blackwoods and the Brackens and all these other houses, right?
Yeah.
You could have the potential of the Mormonts and the Ironborn putting aside past differences and saying, nope, this is the future. We're going to get along now. We're going to work together. And that would be easy with Asha on one side and Alysanne on the other. Alysanne protected her. from Clayton Suggs and others. And so I think that has a lot of potential. It could also happen with Lyanna surviving, that Asha's able to say, your sister saved me, your sister protected me, and I'm coming to honor her. I'm coming to ask Bear Island to forgive us and work with us. So there's a lot of potential. The others could also attack Bear Island, and Lyanna could die there. I mean, there's just so many possibilities. We just don't know how that's going to go. She could die of the harsh winter. I mean, we just don't know. But I definitely think at least one of them survives the series.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I definitely think that. One thing about Daisy, because she's the only dead one, she's got a really cool quote, and it's, "I fought beside the young wolf in every battle. He has not lost one yet," which is, I don't know, I just really like that quote. Yeah. And, she goes out, I think, in a dress, smashing, what is a wine bottle or a flagon of ale over someone's face, and it takes an axe to the belly to take her down, which is
by Ryman Frey.
Yeah, is he the guy that has the headaches? No, that's Merritt.
Merritt. He's the one he's the incompetent one that Jaime has run in with in Feast.
Oh God,
he gets hanged. So that's pretty. Oh,
neat. That's right. Yeah.
Stoneheart gets rid of him.
When you say incompetent Frey, I'm like, okay, well,
is he the one
that eliminates only 64?
He's the one that Jaime goes, "I don't make idle threats."
Right. Yeah,
and then he punches him.
Yeah.
So is that? Oh no. So Merritt's dead before he dies, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all Merritt right. And then him.
God. Got to die by a Frey. It's just awful.
Right. It's terrible.
Yeah, terrible way to go.
But anyways,
at least go out by like a better Frey.
Yeah, but anyways, Daisy deserved better. I mean, she was in Rob's guard. I mean, that means she potentially cross paths with Jaime. I mean,
oh yeah, I mean she
did, but
she was She could have been like one of the ones. She was fighting with Rob. Yeah, she was with Rob and Theon and all these people at the Whispering Wood. So she definitely fought there, and I'm sure Maege did too. I mean, they're the Northern Warhorns. They were Bear Island's men. Mm-hmm. Sounded, sprung the trap, as Micah read. The women of House Mormont are just amazing. I think that's a good episode on the She-Bears. I think we had a great conversation about them. We covered a lot of material. We talked about some interesting theories about where they come from and what their fate awaits in The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. So, guys, I think we call it a night, and I think we ask the listeners out there to rate and review us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at Planetos Podcast. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook as well. And until next time, we'll see you around Planetos. Good night.
Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.